We will be talking with economist Richard Wolff about the flaws and failures of capitalism, about alternative ways of looking at the world, including the thinking of Karl Marx, about alienation, and perhaps about the duress under which so many Americans live today, economically and at work. And it is tough for Americans nowadays. It's tough and it is fragile out there. Our economy is in danger of another financial crisis, perhaps one that is even worse than the one we experienced in 2008. We will talk about that with Professor Wolff as well. But given that so many Americans are struggling economically, given the fragility of our economic state, given the regularity with which the economy seems to fail, why on earth would, for example, 3 Democratic senators join with Republicans in order to make life easier for banks, and specifically make it easier for banks to endanger the economy by relaxing Dodd-Frank? Well, that's what 3 Democratic senators did a couple weeks ago. We covered it on last week's show. Why would regulators, who are supposed to, after all, protect the people and protect the economy, talk about relaxing, perhaps to the point of virtual non-existence, a rule that protects the economy from the kind of crises we saw in 2008 or worse? Why would they do that? Well, of course, you and I can probably guess why, but let's talk about that a little bit. First of all, Jamie Dimon said that in mortgage writing, this is what Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, told a congressional panel after the 2008 crisis. He said that, quote, "In mortgage underwriting, we somehow missed that home prices don't go up forever." The Goldman Sachs CEO, Lloyd Blankfein, said, quote, "We never knew what was happening at any minute." In other words, these guys were saying they were clueless as to what was going on in the economy. Now, of course, some of that is superficial and facile. They did know because they were committing fraud. But in other ways, they're telling the truth. They don't know what's going on. They're just making a buck. So why would you turn the economy over to these guys? The Volcker rule was created to kind of make up for the fact that Republicans and Democrats, including Bill Clinton, repealed the Glass-Steagall Act in the 1990s, which prevented banks from gambling with their customers' money, which not only endangered the global economy, but also forced taxpayers to bail them out. Now, this rule was relaxed because we were told that bankers were so creative and smart and coming up with such wonderful new things that we could trust them. Well, that turned out to be wrong. Now, the Volcker rule, named after Paul Volcker, was supposed to kind of substitute for that, but in order to make the banks happy, it was compromised in certain ways. It became a little bit complicated to administer. So now we're being told by Trump-appointed regulators primarily, we want to relieve banks of this undue burden. Now, bear in mind, banks would have made a record profit in the first quarter of 2018 this year. Even if they hadn't been given a big corporate tax cut, they would have made $49 billion in profit in one quarter. Thanks to the tax cut, it was $56 billion in record profits, including the 6 biggest banks, the ones most responsible for threatening the economy, got $3.9 billion in added profits thanks to the Trump Republican tax cut. I think out of that money, they could probably cut loose a little bit for lawyers to comply with the Volcker rule. It doesn't seem like an undue burden. Nevertheless, it looks like the Federal Reserve, the SEC, are going to relax this rule, which means that we are going to be in even greater danger of a financial crisis. Now, this is what we call regulatory capture, when regulators are desperate to serve the industries they're supposed to be supervising, because let's face it, they're going to go there someday and make big bucks. But it's also telling us about political capture, which has always been a problem through Democratic as well as Republican administrations. But under Trump, political capture has become political servitude, and I deeply fear we are all going to pay the price.